Now it's time for another Board Game Brawl preview with Nick Meanahan, sponsored by BoardGameBliss.com. Hey people, today we're going to take a look at a game that is currently seeking funding on Kickstarter. That game is called The Walking Dead, No Sanctuary, and it's from the company Cryptozoic Entertainment. Now, if you like what you see throughout the rest of this preview video, I'm going to encourage you to go to the official Kickstarter project page. I will have a link up at the top corner of your screen, as well as down in the description section of this video when the project launches. You can go there, find out more information than I could possibly tell you here, and hopefully consider backing the project. Now, I'm sure I don't need to tell most of you, but this game is based off of a very popular franchise called The Walking Dead, which was originally a very popular comic book, and then an even more popular TV series that is still ongoing to this day, as is the comic book. But this is specifically based off of the TV show, and you and the other players take control of different survivors from the show, working together fully cooperatively in order to survive different scenarios. Now, the one scenario I'll show you today is just about scavenging for food and other supplies, but other scenarios may have wildly different goals, including having to fight against other opposition forces, not just walkers, but of course there are walkers there, and you'll have to deal with them constantly throughout the course of the game. So you're trying to survive, you're using your special abilities, you're using action cards, all of these different things. And what's very interesting, and what I want you to look out for in the overview, is a interesting card system that I haven't really seen in any other games, where you're not just saying, hey, here's some action points, here's what I can do, I kill some walkers, I get some items, that's it, my turn is done. Rather, you have to very carefully choose the cards that you play because they are linked together with the cards that your group leader plays. There's a whole color coding system. It's easier if I just show you. So let me go ahead and give you an overview of the game with a prototype version of the game. And I can't stress that enough here because, as you'll see in this prototype version, there are standees, but in the final version of the game, as you will see hints of on the Kickstarter page, there will be high quality miniatures. So please keep that in mind as you watch this overview and go to the official Kickstarter page to find out what I'm talking about. But in any case, enjoy the overview. Then we're going to come back, we'll discuss it more. The Walking Dead No Sanctuary is a cooperative miniatures game for up to 4 players. Each player takes control of a different survivor from the show, and you will win the game if you meet the chosen scenario's victory condition. You lose the game in several ways. If the leader of the group must draw an event card but there are none left to draw, you lose. If the morale gauge gets to 0, you lose. If any survivor is defeated, you lose. To set up the game, start by deciding on your scenario. This will tell you your goals and some of the specific things you need to do to set up. It's also the guiding force for the game. There's also an objective track where you'll put a marker in the first space. As you meet different objectives in order, you'll move the marker along until you arrive at victory. You'll build a reserve of walkers, the maximum that can be allowed in the scenario. From those, you'll place some on the map in the beginning according to the scenario. Each quarter of the map is referenced as A, B, C, and D, with spaces numbered 1 through 9 from top to bottom. You'll also have to make a certain amount of search decks, shuffling together the relevant cards and splitting them into decks to place in each of the buildings with search icons. Objective cards may be mixed up amongst these. You'll also make shuffled decks of event cards, again depending on the scenario, map cards, a stock of tokens, and the dice that the game uses. Every player takes a survivor sheet, together with a miniature that will start in a certain spot for the survivors out on the board. You'll also get a set of action tokens, a trust token, and a set of your own action cards, which you will shuffle and then draw 3 from. Every survivor has a different special ability, and they all have different scores in 3 stats: attack, coordinate, and interact. One player is randomly given the leader token. A round of the game is broken down into 5 phases. First is the planning phase. Every survivor draws another card from their survivor deck. If you cannot draw a card from your survivor deck at any point during the game, you are considered defeated and the whole game ends in a loss. Then the group's leader will draw 2 event cards, choose one to play and one to neglect. Each event card has a keep effect and a discard effect. We'll get to the keep effect later, but for now, you must resolve the discard effect of the card that you neglect right away, which might force you to take stress tokens, place more walkers on the board, lose items, etc. The chosen event card determines the group's approach based on the color. normal, cautious, or reckless, which is of course green, yellow, and red respectively. Survivor cards are the same colors as this. If the survivors go along with this and play the same colored action card, they're considered compliant. If they play a different colored card, they're considered defiant, and the leader will suffer stress. Anytime in the game that the survivors are forced to discard a resource or a token, like trust tokens, for example, but they can't, they must suffer what's called group tension. In this case, every survivor must discard a trust token, and if even one survivor can't, the group loses a morale. Anytime you take stress, you put it on one of the stress circles on your sheet. If you ever need to take another stress but you're all full, you must immediately resolve group tension again. In case you were wondering, what all of this represents are the different horrors and just terrible things that the survivors will have to encounter on a daily basis, and the toll that it takes on their bodies and their mind. After all of this planning is the survivor phase, where players will take their turns. Play starts with the leader and goes clockwise. The first thing you do on your turn is choose and play one of your cards, keeping in mind the approach color. There are 5 of each colored card in your deck. You may then perform one maneuver and one action. There are various maneuvers and actions you can perform in the game. Maneuvers do not require making a roll, but actions will typically require making a roll based off of one of your 3 stats and rolling that many dice. There are also group maneuvers on the group sheet, like gathering items, that everyone can use. To resolve an action, first resolve any free effect that's in the white space, if available. Then, roll an amount of white dice equal to the relevant stat score for the card. For every stress token you have, you must roll a stress die, and you also have to roll an extra one if there's at least one walker in your area. Then, roll everything. The check marks that come up on the white dice are successes. The more, the merrier. If dice come up as exertion, they convert to successes only if the characteristic you rolled matched the survivor card that you played. Otherwise, you may exert yourself by discarding a card from your hand or the top of your deck to flip an exert die over to a success. Now you can do this multiple times, but remember, if your deck runs out, you die. If you roll the focus result and you have focus tokens to spend, you can spend them to convert those die faces to successes as well. The stress dice will force you to either advance the threat meter if you roll lightning bolts, or resolve the fear effect on your survivor card if you roll the skull and crossbones. These are always bad things. And lastly, any unused focus sides on the white dice will give you focus tokens up to a maximum of 5. If a maneuver or action lets you search, you also get to draw a card from the search deck in your building location. By the way, the successes are used to activate, of course, the checkmark abilities on your cards, and you can do this as many times as you can, so therefore that's why it's good to have as many successes as possible. Next up is the event phase. The keep effect of the active event that the leader chose at the beginning of the round is a beneficial task of some sort that will give the group a bonus if people take that action and place their action token on the card during the course of the round. If at least one person didn't do that, the leader will suffer stress during this phase. Otherwise, the person with a token on the card gains a focus, and in either case, the event is then discarded. Next is the walker phase. Each walker will activate, and then more walkers are placed based on the threat track. The first step is reanimation. If there are corpses on the ground from strangers or opposition forces that were killed in previous rounds, they turn into knocked down walkers. Then comes activation for the walkers. They will overrun areas that they share with humans. Strangers are automatically knocked down and defeated. But if there are survivors in that space, they can exert themselves to protect those strangers, and in fact, either way, the survivors must exert themselves if they end up in the same space with walkers, by discarding cards equal to the walkers in their area and then knocking down those walkers. Walkers in any area without humans simply shamble, moving one space closer to the nearest humans. Use map cards to determine how they move. Barricades at buildings can stop and knock down walkers, but if the number of walkers in an area exceeds the number of barricades, they rip them down and they are free to move in. Finally, for this phase is the threat step. Take a look at the current threat level and draw that many map cards. That's how many walkers will be added to the board in those specific areas. Red spaces on the track indicate that special walkers are placed, if applicable, but that's not in every scenario. If you run out of walkers from the reserve to place, you'll have to settle group tension just like if you run out of anything else. Then, all knocked down walkers stand upright at the end of this phase. The last phase is the objective phase. First, you check opposition forces, which is an optional rule and some scenarios will require it. If there are opposition forces, they may react and attack in this phase. After that is the objective step. Refer to the current stage and resolve each effect in order if you are able to, then advance the objective markers if applicable. These effects could be a mix of good or bad depending on the stage, but ultimately what you're trying to do is get the objective marker all the way to the end, which will result in victory, assuming you've met the conditions on the previous stages. That is a very brief rundown of The Walking Dead No Sanctuary. Well, when you're starting off with your theme being The Walking Dead, you're already in a good spot because, of course, it's still immensely popular to this day, and there are many, many zombie games out there on the hobby board game market, but when you are allowed to use such a high-quality and very well-known and notable franchise as The Walking Dead, you're putting yourself in a good spot, like I said. But on top of that, as I mentioned in my intro, it would have been very simple to just make a cooperative game where it's just, which I've seen many, many times, where you just say, hey, you get this many points, and you can do this many actions, and you just do this, and it's very simple, go from point A to point B, kill some things, roll some dice, that's it. What The Walking Dead No Sanctuary does is integrate a very interesting card system, where, being usually when you're the first player or the leader, in some games, that matters very, very little. It actually has very little effect at all, other than when something comes up and you have to make some sort of important decision once in a great while. In No Sanctuary, it's incredibly important because you have to make tons of decisions. Not only do you have to decide which event card you're going to use, you can possibly hurt yourself by playing a card that is defiant to that and having to get rid of trust tokens. The other players now have decisions to make because they may be forced to play different cards that don't follow your approach that you chose, in which case you're going to have to take stress and you might get to a group tension, which is going to be really awful. And I don't know that I really hit it home in the overview well enough, but all of these different things, when you keep hearing me say stress and group tension, all of this represents thematically the horrors that these survivors and you as the players have to endure against the Walking Dead themselves. And we are the Walking Dead. But so it can be very stressful in that sense, like really stressful, because very tense because you have to make these decisions. And there's never really a great thing to do because you're always discarding an event card and it's always going to do something bad to you. So it's interesting that whole system, how integrated it is, where it's not just I get some actions. No, it's much more than that. It's I have this action I chose, here's some ramifications of it, then I'm going to resolve that later, rolling dice, hoping I get the things that I need. Any game where you're rolling a lot of dice, you might say, well, there's going to be a ton of problems with randomness. But the thing is, while you can randomly just get lucky, or you might just randomly get screwed on the dice, you can have some influence over it. So you can use focus tokens to flip your focus dice over to successes if you have them. If you don't have them, you accrue focus tokens for later. You can exert yourself to make exertion dice into successes, but your deck is your life. And if you die, the whole group loses. The whole game's over. So what this risk reward? How much are you willing to risk now to get a lot of successes? And therefore, if your card has very good success actions, take those and really help out the group. Maybe it's worth it to do it. Maybe it's not. The game can be long. So, the scenario can be long. So how much are you willing to risk early on to get rewards and hope that they will be worth it in the long run? So there's a lot of decisions to be made in the game. There's a lot of different things going on. There's group actions that you can take. There's always this sort of give and take of something bad's going to happen. We may have to take stress. We may have to lose morale. We may have to raise the threat track. All of these things are going to be bad. The more stress you have, the more of those stress dice you have to roll. And you may have to do the fear on the action cards, which is even worse. But you have to make these decisions. And I think that gets to the core of the theme of not just The Walking Dead, but The Walking Dead in particular, but any, what I would call, traditional zombie story, which is not just like running and gunning and shooting everything and blah, 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 but just overwhelming horror. Because there are no good things. There's just a thing that we have to do to survive. and all the bad things that come wrapped up in that. So I think thematically, The Walking Dead No Sanctuary is going to hit it home for a lot of people. Especially, I mean, look, if you're already into the Walking Dead franchise, this is going to go down as one of the more notable games, if only for the production value on top of the theme and the interesting elements they put into it, much more so than a lot of other zombie games that are out there. But even if you're like, oh, Walking Dead, I can take it or leave it, zombie game, take it or leave it, again, those interesting card mechanisms, and the fact that it is fully cooperative and comes at it from a different angle, and it's not just, hey, I'm the leader and I'm telling everyone what to do. It's, hey, I'm the leader. I'm hoping you follow me because otherwise we're going to be in a really bad spot. So everyone still has their own agency, but if you do fully cooperate to the best of your ability, it's going to help you out even more. So lots of interesting things going on. It is somewhat complex a game, but not too hard to learn, and you can get into it with casual people, which is good because casual gamers are even going to be more likely to be drawn in by the franchise. But even hardcore gamers, I think, can appreciate what's going on in the game with the decision making. So if any of those groups apply to you or to your gaming group, definitely go to the official Kickstarter project page, which I will link to in the top corner of your screen, as well as down in the description section underneath this video, because you can go to the page, find out more information than I can even possibly tell you here, even as long as I rambled, and hopefully you'll consider backing the project. That is The Walking Dead No Sanctuary from Cryptozoic Entertainment. Thank you so much for watching and for supporting our sponsors. Take care. Thanks for watching. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Patreon. And make sure to check out our sponsor, Board Game Bliss, where you can find an amazing selection of games from around the world. BoardGameBliss.com. Thanks for your support.